Hi, welcome back to Hope 2020. We really appreciate you hanging out with us. We have Eric and Terry here to talk about their next session, which is going to be hybrid attacks, becoming the next stainless steel rat. And we'll take it away right to Eric. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Hope. How's everyone doing? My name is Eric Michaud. Welcome today. Sorry for the delay. We've had a lot of technical issues, and we may notice that there are some glitches along the way, so please bear with us. We promise we got some really cool content here. So anyway, today's talks, hybrid attacks becoming the stainless steel rat. A lot of what we're going to cover today is where physical security has been and where it's going, and a combination of some attack methodologies that you may find interesting, and including some interesting exploits we may display at the end of the talk. So let's get started. Let's see here. So who am I? My name is Eric Michaud. I'm the US co-founder of Tool. I started in 2004, picked my first slot at Hope. I think it was the fifth Hope. Someone can correct me here. But basically, I picked my first slot with Barry Wells. I said, hey, how do you start an organization like Tool in Holland? And he said, well, why don't we just extend it here? And so that's what happened. At that first year, I actually picked and designed tools around the Multi-Lock Interactive and Medico M3 shortly thereafter. Finished up school and got some notice and ended up at Argonne National Laboratory doing nuclear safeguards and security, which was a lot of hybrid attacks. So hold on, take a quick drink of water. There we go. But yeah, I was there for a few years, built some hacker spaces, Pumping Station 1, I founded that, and co-founded HackDC. Hacked on voting machines, picked some more locks, learned electrical engineering, and realized that, especially in the real world, there's a lot of convergence happening, and it's slow. And Terry's going to help extend that apart as to where it's going. I'm going to cover at the beginning a lot of what you see, what you may think about, and what you focus on. And I'm going to try to keep pulling you back from that focus in context of penetration testing and red teaming in the future, and where attacks can go and how bad they can get. So I'll say if Terry can do a quick intro. Oh, do we have Terry's audio? I think Terry's unmuted.
There we go. Yeah, Terry Gold, founder of D6 Research. I spent the last 20 years doing InfoSec and physical security, specialize in Fortune 500 critical infrastructure controls, and sort of the hybrid between both of those. So that's pretty much my area of focus.
Cool. All right, so today's agenda, who is the stainless steel rat? We're gonna go over that. Why are we calling it this? Why am I talking about the stainless steel rat? And what are really hybrid attacks? And then we're gonna go over to the classic coverage of physical security. That's gonna be my section. Terry's gonna go over to access control, and where you see RFID cards, but that's where the rabbit hole starts. And then after his section, where the vulnerabilities are expanding, then we're going to go into other types of interesting attack research that I've done with other people, and including independently. And then we're going to go over what some potential nightmare scenarios are at the end that we've either seen or foresee. So that's about it. And let's get started. So who is the stainless steel rat? Jim DeGriz, a comment, a thief, hacker. Goes by many aliases, including Slippery Jim and Stainless Steel Rat, and it was written by Harry Harrison. And the first book came out in 1961 about this person that lives on the fringes of society, like maybe a lot of us that live in this chat. And basically is a master of disguise, martial arts, an accomplished bank robber, a criminal mastermind, expert in breaking and entering, and perhaps most usefully, a skilled liar or a con man. A colleague recently brought this up, and we thought it was a great idea to cover where we see where attacks are going. So we have people here on the digital side and then on the physical side. And the physical is getting run over on this side, and a lot of people who are designing the systems for access control don't borrow from the past of what we have developed in cybersecurity from like software development life cycles, security development life cycles, and those other areas. And as we'll see, there are big problems. But to get really into the thick of it, there was a quote that we pulled, which was, it was easier in the old days, just as old wooden buildings have more rats than concrete. Now that society is all ferrocrete and stainless steel, there are fewer gaps in the joints. And it takes a very smart rat indeed to find these openings, and only a stainless steel rat can be at home in this environment. And so that is the conceit for what we're covering today, is a plethora of different like attacks and how they would combine in, let's say, almost like a chain to perform complex compromises. So basically, over the last 30 years, many mechanical access controls have been replaced, and we're going to go over that in depth today. And for financial and administrative reasons, for the amateur thief or hacker, digital controls can seem like magic. But with the right set of eyes, all that extra complexity is an additional attack surface. That's how Terry and I see this, and I think a lot of our colleagues do, and hopefully if you don't already, you will today too. And through which an organization's security can be compromised. At worst, it is a precarious house of cards that can lead to a catastrophic failure. And we'll examine some of these implications and the digitization of these access controls from the perspective of some of our real-world environments. So examples and devices of physical space that you are all familiar with, and I'm going to go pretty fast through this because you already know this all. And so we have the pin tumbler locks, which everyone seems to focus on, the warded locks, the wafer locks, the tubular locks, and then we have some disc locks, and then we get to more complex dimple locks. And then also we have, you know, the Medicos with the sidebars and things like that. Now, one of the things to think about is specifically, as we'll jump right over to master keyed systems in the history, is that, you know, when you have over like a large amount of people, which is what we're going to be covering today. So like what happens when you get to the enterprise, when you get beyond just like the one door, one lock, and you start expanding out into, you know, you have complex organizations. So you have like a master key system. And the problem is like, if one of those major cylinders gets compromised, you may have to rip and replace like 1,000 or 5,000, how many cylinders you need. And that's where electronic access control systems actually come into play, because then you can just like deactivate one of the cards. But how do those systems work? And so moving forward, you know, people started to bond electronic circuit boards, and, you know, we have like the cyber key and, you know, Alloy ProTech, where they have like variations on that. You know, all the major vendors now have something where you have actual, with their access controls localized more often than not. It's not just that you have the mechanical, you have also the digital. And in that composition, you actually often need a device to go read the logs. And you can actually have windows of time when things can be opened. But they're ridiculously expensive. Moving forward into that, people are trying to figure out how do we have systems that are, you know, can be opened and closed repeatedly. And so we have also access control pads, which, you know, use feather dusters, you know, to pull the keys off. You have like the mag locks. Oops, sorry. Somehow that's slipped. They have magnetic locks, where there's many ways around them, whether you're going over them, through them, or, you know, degauss them. But that's not really important part today. We're move forward into the electronic side with RFIDs and other types of systems, and Terry will cover that shortly. So to compromise most of these systems, we already know these attacks and techniques from lockpicking, which is a skill, bypass, you know, mechanical exploits in other areas, decoding, even if, with specialized tools, and other destructive types of entry. Now, one second. Now, whether or not these are valuable today, the problem is we have like cameras and other types of security policies and procedures and systems in place that might not allow you to do these particular things. But normally, like when I go in to do an engagement, and I do a red team, oops, sorry, I don't know why I'm so sorry, but my slides are just moving forward magically. When I do an engagement, I come up with a general attack plan. And so basically, like, what's the floor plan? Who's there? Who's the equipment? That's the equipment. What are the tools and techniques that I know? I mean, if you use, you know, Metasploit or other types of digital tools, you have a whole catalog. I'm so sorry, I don't know why the, oh, it might be why. What are the tools and techniques that you actually have? Again, back to Metasploit. You get a whole list of exploits there, and obviously there's even private databases and other research, and if you're really good, you write your own. What are the humans in this physical space? What are the conceits? Like, why are they there? When are they there? And what are your goals to get there? What are the policies in place? And what are the schedules of relevant people? And then also, what are the restriction points? Like, basically, when you're building out your attack plan, you know, what are each of the things you have to do? Now, let's say if you're going to be compromising a someone's corporate enterprise, maybe their first footholds a web server on a DMZ. Now, maybe that doesn't actually pivot into their internal network, but you get a lot of extra information there from like maybe system administrators logging into that, and you're like, oh, maybe they access this other system and we pivot over there. The same thing goes for physical access. So basically, think of it like you're pivoting through a network. So when you're compiling tools, you may see tools like this, like shove knife, bump keys, things like that. It's the same thing. It's just, different tool, different equipment, different points of access. Now, obviously, there's a lot of commercial stuff that's available. But what if we want to start digging a little deeper, like a bit deeper into the more sophisticated tooling? So this particular tool here, just for show, is called a Universal Pin Teleport Decoder by John Fall. It's about $5,000. It is not generally available to the public. The way it works is that it has a very thin shim, very, 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 very tiny wire. And this tool was designed in the 1980s and sold. And so it is truly universal. Even works in Medico, and they have a Medico actual tool on the side. Now we have, so sorry, I don't know why my slides are advancing automatically. But basically, with the Medicoder from John King, which allows you to have a little small wire to turn the biaxial pin on a Medico, this tool would actually do the measurement of the key pin. And these tools actually work inside of 2 minutes. So when you're actually, putting together your attack plan of like, I need 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, and you just need to idle here so that people can do their work, and then I can continue accessing deeper areas of the enterprise. This tool may be available, may not be available, but just an example of the depths at which people make, let's say, different types of exploits. I'm gonna try to show you a quick video here. I hope it'll work. Oh, it's not working. Can I actually give a URL really quick, or to the one of the people helping us on the screen here?
Yes, you can. Put it into the Zoom chat, please.
Cool. Okay, awesome.
Give us a couple of minutes to a second to get that, then we'll get that right to you.
Great. Cool. I have it, and I'll put it in your Zoom chat. Where's I'm in speaker view. Trying to find the, how do I text you? Can you text me?
The Zoom chat is in the bottom where, when you move the mouse towards the bottom of the gallery view.
So speaker can't find Zoom chat, right?
And,
oh, it's locked out. If you can switch me. Let me see. Oh, speaker view, gallery view. I seem to have my features locked out. If I can give it to Terry, I'll give it to Terry really quick. And Terry, you can just drop into the chat room for them. Signal works for you?
The Zoom chat, yeah.
Well, I give it to, Terry, if you can put that in the Zoom chat. Thank you so much. And you can tell me if it's running.
Might like to loop back in through the stream.
Hey guys, we're just getting this link for you, and we'll have that in just a second. Here you go. All right, it's coming right up.
Just tell me if it's playing. I can't see it.
You'll probably have to see that on the live stream.
No,
Terry
that's okay.
can, let you know.
No, that's okay. I just need to know that that's running. It's fine, and I can.
Please hold. OBS just crashed.
having a slight challenge.
No worries. We can go a little. We can keep going.
Please do. Please do.
Audio
Thank
is
you.
live.
All right, cool. Oh, so here's a short video. So some of you may be familiar with what they call the under the door tool. This is a tool we use quite often on engagements to get around certain spaces. I hope the video plays. Oh.
All right, hold on one second. Let me see where we're at on the live stream.
Oh, we're live.
Yeah, cool. So let's see here. Terry, could you pass him the link really quick?
I believe I did. It's in
Oh,
the
wait.
chat.
Oh, here we go. I think no, I'm hitting play, but it doesn't seem to want to play. Okay, I'm having some severe issues here. Sorry, everyone at home. I really apologize. We were trying to record this ahead of time. I'm going to get some stuff queued up on the side here while Terry takes over. I'm at the next section. Basically, I'll come back with videos near the end, and we'll wrap this up. So, there we go.
All
So
right,
anyway,
that sounds good. Let's go. Terry?
Give me a moment while I was doing that chat. Something happened to the Zoom.
All right.
so,
I got
so
it. I got
is my audio still live really quick? I just wanted to say really
Yes.
quick. A lot of that coverage that's where we had our real mindsets of how to get around mechanical and electromechanical systems today. But Terry's going to lead forward with what actually is now bleeding into the enterprise over the last while and into the future. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen here.
This is from Control. Eric, can you please stop sharing your screen while Terry is sharing?
Yes. Done.
Terry, go ahead and reshare your screen for me.
Okay. Having some issues. A second here.
How's Zoom acting up on you, Terry?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to, it's mixing up the pre-recorded portion that I thought I was going to use.
We got it now.
So,
Seeing your screen.
But, oh gosh, it keeps. It's trying to use the pre-recorded version. That's the issue. I apologize.
No problem.
Let me just try to hit.
You can see your screen there. We're seeing it now. We are seeing your screen.
Yeah, I think I got it. Okay, sorry about that. I had everything pre-recorded and it just wanted to rip it from that. Okay, I'm gonna get through this fairly quick. This is a lightning round. Can you see everything? Can you see me?
Yeah, they can see you.
Yes,
Give me
we
a second.
got you. And we're working on getting your slide on the air. And Eric, you can mute if you'd like. Or if you want to stay on, that's fine. That's fine. Leave it.
I'm going to stay on. I have follow up at the end.
Okay, slides are live.
Okay. Am I live? Everything good?
Yeah, go ahead and proceed, Terry.
Okay. All right. So when we go to conferences, we generally see people presenting on cloning cards, and there's a lot more to physical security than just the access cards. There's a whole infrastructure. Let's talk about that for a second. Why do organizations have access cards? It's not for security, or that's not how they came into play 25 years ago. It's because mechanical locks, non-electronic locks, were expensive to replace. And if somebody didn't return the key, they left the organization, they lost the key, you had to replace the whole lock. It became expensive. And if you have 1,000 doors or 10,000 doors, it's a big problem. So when RFID came along, or even magnetic stripe or whatever it might be, you could just replace the card and not the lock. So you implement a new system. That's generally what the reason was. And that was utility. And the people doing it were not security people. Security by title, guards and guns, but not application security people. So this is how you have the old, very insecure RFID that actually has no security. There's just no security whatsoever in it. So that leads us, when we go to conferences and we see people saying, hey, I can clone cards, and wow. I mean, it is cool stuff, but generally, when you clone a card, you only inherit the privileges of the individual that you cloned. And if it's a corporation that I'm doing a red team for, the whole name of the game for most engagements is elevated privilege. So I don't want to be locked into one person that I cloned, and then the one person I cloned might not be the ultimate privilege that I need. And a lot of the talks that I see, they're kind of designed with the assumption that you're going to be you're going to have an engagement with an organization that has very insecure technology. And that's not really a good assumption when you're walking into a red team, unless all your red teams are going to be mom and pops or some outdated enterprise. I will tell you that my background is I exclusively work with high security organizations, Fortune 500s. They call me in when they have problems, and I get access to all their systems, all their information, all their resources. I interview all the stakeholders. I go sit in their GSOC. I see what they see. I know what they see. I know where the data goes. And I've done this across many organizations, some that you would think are the most secure in the world, and maybe they are on the InfoSec side, but on the physical side, it's a different audience. And so you can actually go work hard to get increased privileges, to go deeper. But the challenge with that is if organizations have implemented new card technology in the past, say, 5 years, generally it has an organizational life of about 10 to 15 years. So you'll think about, if it's just say Fortune 1000, about 85 of them are going through changing their technology every year. So odds are that you find the old stuff that is in the clear, easy to hack, like you see in conferences, is like fading, okay? And it's not to say it isn't out there, or they have an encrypted technology that's older that can be hacked. It's just the newer technology in the past 5 years that they've been deploying, so far to my awareness, hasn't been hacked. It's using standards-based algorithms, and it will get hacked, but just it's a much steeper curve to be able to do that. And then if you do, you should publish it. I'd be interested. Having said that, you can spend your time doing that, but even with the stuff that is insecure, when I go to have to take a closer look at and analyze it and crack it and clone it, and then I go from cloning to minting, which means I'll go ahead and understand the card technology and the number schemes they're using, and then I'll essentially become the issuance office to issue many different card numbers. And I have methods to estimate which ones might have higher privilege. So I'll go mint like 100 different ones, walk around the campus, and generally some will start working that have higher privileges. There's a way to do it. But to get to that point, we generally think that if we're using, for instance, a Proxmark, great tool, that if you scan it, it'll tell you what it is. What people often don't know is that built into the Proxmark, it has already done a lot of the analysis around the modulation, the waveform, the encoding, like if it's FSK modulation, the Manchester encoding, and they extract that relative to the chip. And then so when you scan it, it says, we know what this is. We know how it's encoded. This is what it is. And that's a great tool that shortcuts a lot of things, so you don't have to go decode the encoding. But if the Proxmark doesn't know that specific encoding or data schema, because they're all arranged differently, a lot of them, then it'll either tell you it thinks it knows what it is or it doesn't, then you have to do it manually. So it can be a lot of work. Sometimes it takes me, real quick to do it in a Proxmark. Sometimes I have to do it on my own from the raw data. It takes me 5-10 minutes. It's taken me 2, 3, 4 weeks to do some of these things. And you can see, like, I have different classifications for all these different technology types. And then in each different tray, I have customers that have 50 different schema layouts, even for even in one tray. It's just a nightmare. So, you kind of look at the rest of physical security. It's not just about the cards and the readers. Physical security generally is about 20 years behind information security practices and principles. So given that, and they operate in a silo, the information doesn't integrate. The controls generally are weak because they classify risk based on building and use type. I'll give you an example. They'll say this is an R&D building in Malaysia in this neighborhood. This neighborhood is a low crime rate, so we're not too worried. So let's just go ahead and secure this facility relative to what we do in R&D. They don't generally think about who the actors would be that might not live in the area and what that actor might do in terms of what they might be after, what methods they might use. Is it a dynamic attack that might use some InfoSec type of methods and exploits and physical aspects? And so there's a lot of holes. They have a lot of catching up to do. And so they don't think in terms of bad actors, motive capability and methods. And a lot of the mechanisms in the control infrastructure are architected around functions and features, not actual controls. Give you an example, a contact sensor in the door. The contact sensor was triggered, door is open, door is closed. It's an apparatus, and they want to know, was a contact sensor, did it go off? But they don't really know why or what it means or who did it, right? So it's kind of and everything's built to keep everybody out. None of these control systems, well, there's a couple that are coming up, that's a different story, but what you'll generally find is they're built to keep everybody out, and I don't think they do a great job for somebody that's determined, but they don't really account for when somebody gets in to really identify what's going on. There's no anomaly detection, there's no intrusion detection, so that's kind of an issue. If we look at the infrastructure beyond the RFID badge, you have a reader, right? And the reader right here would go ahead and power the badge. It would backscatter the data would get captured by that reader, and that gets sent up to a local controller at that site, usually near that door. And here's what happens. The organization orders these badges from the manufacturer. Generally 99% of the time they're pre-encoded. They encode it electronically in the chip. They write the number, the authentication payload, the card number to the card, not a good idea. And then that badge operator takes that off the stack, and when they're about to issue it to John the user, they'll fat finger the number into the system, and then that system will push that card number out to the controller. And this controller acts as a static whitelist, kind of like a CRL, okay? Then Johnny goes out and he's going to authenticate at the door. And then when he presents his badge, the reader will go ahead and pass along that card number, and it'll do a match and say, is this the right one? It doesn't really know that Johnny's the right person holding the card, or any other events are going on within the organization that say, hey, yeah, somebody presented the right card number, but it was like just used in another country like a minute ago. How can it be in two places at the same time? So there's issues with this, but that's kind of how it works. Now, when we go beyond the local door infrastructure, now there's a back end, just like IT. People don't really realize this, okay? We're gonna get to the cool stuff in just a minute. Going through this usually takes like an hour to do this, so we're making record time here. So if you look at the blue, this would be at the local facility, okay? This would be the building, okay? If you look over here, the stuff in the red is where it would be like mothership, centralized. This is where the control system would be, the software, kind of equivalent to like AD and domain controllers. Visitor management would be a different system. The surveillance system would be different. So this isn't like the cameras. This is the system that manages all the streams that the cameras are recording. When they record, what they do, maybe even the angle of the cameras, like it's the brain system of it. I'll have different integrations. I might have integrations to third-party systems, HR, APIs, IoT, AD, and then all the typical web server OS databases. And so we'll focus on the control system. This right here will go ahead and connect over like a LAN, hopefully it's segregated, back over to the facility, and your typical stuff over here. And then we'll go back to the controllers or the IP cameras or whatever it might be. Let's focus on the controller. So the controller will go ahead and connect over the LAN, but then the local level, very seldomly is it IP. It's like WeGAN or 485. So serial connection. And these things generally can't go ahead and detect events from the reader other than somebody badged in. But if somebody changed the reader's configuration, it can't pick it up. So generally it doesn't pick things up. There is a new protocol. I actually just spent 6 months doing a research deep dive on, and I'm publishing a report in about 2 weeks on the protocol, what it can and can't do. But generally that protocol can do some things, but it still doesn't pick up like whether somebody deprecated the configuration of a reader to get through the door more easily. So, so generally, it's a broader attack surface is the message. And if we were to review, it's a static whitelist, okay? If you were to mess with that whitelist, the control system won't know, operators won't know. The authorization happens locally. So you can attack that controller locally, and generally they won't know, because if you attack it locally, you're gonna make it look like it was an authorized user, and there's no anomaly detection in these systems built in generally. There's no authorization layer, so you can take advantage of that. There's no conditional access. I only know of 1 or 2 systems that do that, and they're very new. They can still be undermined. There's no concept of privilege, so admins it's generally a flat admin type of level, where if you get admin access, either through breaking the database or the access control system, there's a whole bunch of things you can do, and they don't really have detection on certain people are doing certain actions that shouldn't have been, and they don't tie in with like privilege user password management systems like, those type of systems. So it's very weak when you get in there. Almost everything's symmetric key, and there are a lot of keys. So you can actually go ahead and gain trust if you find out the keys. There are some methods actually you can go ahead and get in between them, hijack the key, and then you actually become the authorized system, and then you kind of pull away, even remove that original trusted device. That's pretty scary. And so let's move on here. If you look at the attack surface of physical security, kind of in a more simple sense, you look at it, it's devices, applications, process, and people, okay? And here's basically the things, not all of them, but a good example of things that map to each one of those domains. And then if you notice the outer ring, the methods, these methods are methods you're already familiar with. It's just this different systems in a different environment, okay? So when I go into an environment and I go do a review, I'll say, here's what I found. You couldn't detect configuration changes. You haven't been updating firmware, probably because a lot of these devices can't be updated. Your cryptographic keys, I was able to go ahead and get them. I know what they are. There's, privilege accounts, that sort of thing. Interestingly enough, I can't show you this, but there's an animation here where it'll show you that organizations think they only have a couple of red spots, but when I go in and do an audit, I generally find that it's much worse than that. This is actually a Fortune 10 company. If we take an example, kind of wrapping up my section, I think that a lot of presentations at conferences assume that they're going to have a lot of mechanical locks, or they're going to have simple RFID type of cards. The reality is that as you go from top to bottom, small to a corporate that has also high security access points, to a critical infrastructure, generally they're less reliant on mechanical locks. They're going to more electronic because it's economy of scale. Also, as insecure as maybe sometimes they are, they'll give them an audit trail that somebody went through that or something like that, and mechanical doesn't give you, okay? And, but generally you could start getting to corporate high security, you're not gonna be able to attack the cards as often or as predictable. So you have to go to the system level. And there are multiple, we just went through, there's multiple points in that attack surface you can go after. So if we look at that, we can say, what would my tactical approach be? So if we equate that to skip over the small business, they have crappy systems, I'm gonna find something that's insecure. We can't depend on that. I don't like that. Let's assume that it's kind of corporate and hardened, a mix of things that, we actually have to go capture the flag in somewhere that would be, fairly hard. Even if I get through the front door, getting to really where I need to go would be pretty hard. Let's assume that, okay? Because that is a reality in most accounts that organizations I have to deal with or could afford to hire me. So the first thing I would do is, I try to find you try to hack the readers and stuff, but then I'd go ahead and look for the controllers, and there's multiple ways you can go ahead and do that. Once you look for the controller, the interesting thing is the leading controllers that are deployed out there in the world that are still being sold and deployed, they have a one-to-one relationship, meaning they only allow one access control system to talk to them, and they will only talk to that control system. So looking at the traffic and understanding what's going on and where this control system is pretty easy once you find the controller. Once you get to the control system, there's multiple ways to get into that. It's a whole separate session. But once I get in there, I can create new users. I can change user groups. I can go ahead and mess around with privileges. If I find existing users, I can change their photo with my photo. That's really good if you have like these guarded areas where they're really rarely checking your badge, your face with some system. It better look like you. Well, if I do that, it's just going to pop up with my photo, even though it's, with somebody else's name. Yes.
Hi, Terry. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We only have about 5 minutes left. I just wanted to give you a heads up if you want to wrap it up.
I'll wrap it up in less than a minute.
Yeah, and then I'll jump in on the canned attacks, and then we can go over some stuff at the end very quickly.
Okay. So the other interesting thing is once you actually understand what's going on between credentials and these controllers and everything in the system, you come across these really hard access points where you can't crack the RFID badge, and they have like these man traps. You can actually go into the control system. You can create a new badge type that you do know about, that the reader can handle, and you can look this up by knowing what reader model they have, and you can push that badge type down to the controller, and then the reader's passive, and it can read your badge that you just made up and made the system be able to accept, right? So they thought they were like the secure credential. We just downgraded the whole thing to get around these secure areas. The other thing too is you can do command and control. So these systems are made to open doors in emergencies. You can press buttons to open doors. I've done it where I pressed to open all the doors at the same time in the building and like literally shook the building, just freak people out, kind of cool. And then you can disable alerts and alarms. And then the last thing is just to an example of how bad some of these systems are, those controllers, like where they store the whitelist, if there's a power failure, they do have battery backup, but if there's a power failure and it goes beyond the battery backup or the battery backup fails, the volatile memory dumps a lot of the information, and then it goes into a state where it accepts just any old card read sometimes, and not necessarily specific cards. So you can force things sometimes. Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Thanks, Terry.
Sure.
All right, cool. I'm going to jump in really quick. So we lost a lot of time on this because of technical difficulties. I'm going to do a screen share really quick. But actually, we're going to cover some blended stuff really quick. So if you can cue up the BMW video and hit play, that'd be great, guys.
Hi, welcome back. We're here with Eric and Terry. Eric, thank you for that talk. Did you want to add some more?
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties. We're going to reshoot this and post it online later, but we hope to give you some really good information to start. Anyway, really appreciate the time here at Hope. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but thanks for having us.
All right. Well, thank you, Eric, and thank you, Terry. On behalf of Hope 2020, all of the attendees, the presenters, and the volunteers, we really appreciate you and Terry for sharing your presentation and information today. Thank you very much and hope to see you soon.